here for the first stop because, you know, we a couple of years ago at town meeting, we passed a new zoning ordinance called the West Ayer Village Form-Based Code in this area. We also were successful. We were awarded a $3 million MassWorks grant, and that's the whole wonderful road project that's been going on up here, which we're going to be wrapping up, you know, this June. But it's the connective tissue, like this stretch of road out here, right? Everyone just says, well, it's, you know, out there on West Main Street by the Verbeck Gate. It's not really a place. It's sort of a space, if you will. And what it is mostly, you know, a good old auto-oriented, you know, corridor, strip corridor commercial. And out here again, there were gas stations, clubs, and other stuff all right at the gate. But we're redeveloping this area right here, starting where sort of the greatest, by the way, Korean restaurant, I think, in the world. As you know, so, you know, moving up from starting there all the way out to Branch Road. Rebuilding here, and this is going to be known as West Ayer Village. Just like, you know, go to Concord, there's Concord Historic Town Center, and then there's the village of West Concord, right? Which is a whole other kind of hip scene. And I'm not sure how fast you can bike in this town. People say, oh no, that's so far away. It's like, no, you can bike so quickly. If we had the, by the way, you'll see new bicycle lanes here as well. This June. Trees, shade trees on the sidewalks. And we have a couple of, you know, prospective developments that are saying, okay, we'd like to come in here and do a multi-story, mixed-use building, commercial storefronts on the ground level always, residential units above. Like they just said, they now have a cap of, there are now 8,000 people around, you know, working on Devens. It's going to go up to 10,000 with the new ones online now, and then through. This will be a wonderful place for them to live. And they say, well, I live in West Ayer Village. And we're also going to have a shuttle bus station right here. They're going to run the March shuttles. Picture I live in a building right here, pick me up right here, and you drive me right to my job at Bristol Myers Squibb. I really don't need a car for during the week of the day. It's not my car. My life is not designed around the car. And we see West Ayer Village is becoming, you know, a really fantastic new place where, as Jonathan said, the infrastructure's here. All right, guys, so I just want to stop here and get a sense and keep your eye on West Ayer Village, okay? All right, folks. How many folks haven't been up like this close to it? Have you all, right? You all have been here and sort of right through the years and got a sense of it. So this is now what is, you know, known as Vicksburg Square, but originally it was constructed between 1929 and 1930, and it was known as the Regimental Barracks. It's a proper original historic name with a Regimental Barracks. These were built as barracks. And I'll tell you, when this was built in 1929, you know, World War I ended November of 1918. They literally at that point were probably going to just decommission, you know, just conclude the base, wrap it up. They figured that's it. The war to end all wars is over. Let's return the land, take everything down. They thought about that, but really soon after they realized, no, this was big and valuable. The government decided to keep it. And this is when really decisions were made in America about how we treat the military. They said at this time in the 20s the United States military was the best equipped military and best fed military in the world, but the worst housed military in the world. Did not provide good housing for our soldiers and sailors then at that time. This was one of the first acts of Congress in 1929 to say, we are going to really elevate, you know, military service as a noble profession. We're going to treat it with dignity, the service people. To that they knew it's all about housing, how they're housed. And they said, we're not going to build these wooden barracks and these sort of cheap, you know, temporary, and they kept saying this is, you know, the military's temporary. It's just temporary for war. And they said, no, we're going to have a standing, you know, military, and it's going to be a dignified military. We're going to treat them well. Thus, they appropriated huge amounts of funds at this time, and Fort Devens, then still Camp Devens, when this was built, it was still Camp Devens. This was one of the first great well, military housing buildings to be erected in the nation.
Really?
It actually, yes, really, and I have all the congressional hearing stuff I've gone through when it was done. It really is an important cultural historic asset to the military and the country and the nation. And this is all what is known as classical revival architecture, colonial, and that's what they were doing in the 1920s. It's magnificent, but look at the scale of it. You just don't realize the scale of it till you stand out here. This was all originally zoned. Part of the first plan is the Innovation Technology Zone. They really thought this will be great.
Alan, I think the Trinity Company is a big part of the story.
That's right, Trinity Financial.
I heard that they spent $1 million in due diligence.
Yes.
And it was shot down, and I still don't understand why. Do you understand why?
I do, and that was part of the history of it. Trinity Financial is a well-known group that have done things like this around the state. Again, I won't go too into that, but there were attempts, that's right. The main point is now, here it is. The interesting, Janice and I are very fascinated with the Ayer Harvard town line. Actually, right here, we are standing, I believe, in Harvard. This is the line.
I got permission.
There you go. Cuts right up. It cuts through this building on the diagonal.
About 20% is on the Harvard line,
Yeah.
which is what's part of the problem when it's come to super town meeting to do something with this property. Because part of the problem that people have, and it's completely understandable, is, well, right now, it's not all our property. It's not all on Ayer. It's not, and all on Harvard. So, one of the ideas as we're going forward, okay, is you got to look at, when you're looking at that historical line, can you move it? Can you move it? So is it possible for Ayer to take the 20% of Harvard part of Vicksburg Square to make it Ayer, and then what 20% of something else are we willing to give to Harvard? This is fair, but remember what it was, okay? And envision what maybe it could be. And that's what we have to do. And it's a long process, and we all know sometimes it's hard to see through the weeds, But that's what we're going to do. We're going to get in the middle of the weeds, and we start clearing them out until we get a clear picture. But that's one of the things to remember, too, is what part of that historical line can be tweaked? Because I don't think it's a good idea to just say, no, we just want what was. We want what can be. Right.
It's a huge complex. It's the scale of it. I'm trying to remember numbers. And one building, right, was designed to hold like 500, another 500. I think what it said, it held 2,000. But you see in here is the whole courtyard inside, which originally was a beautiful green courtyard.
So you had to pay it fast.
Of course, and then sometime in the 50s, 60s, they decided, like everything, well, let's make that a parking lot. But again, you see the scale, but the beautiful open verandas that opened onto the courtyard in the middle. This is magnificent architecture, magnificent built forum, sitting up here on this plateau. And to see it gone is, I think, it's worthy of being saved. But you see the scale of this. This is not amateur hour. This is not amateur hour stuff. This is really working with folks that are able to take on something of this complexity and scale. And this is what we're going to talk about at the charrette tomorrow. We lay this stuff out. Okay. So you have Frank, yes.
Alan, notice please that the first floor on all these buildings is at loading dock level. These were War Department plans to be completely flexible, to be able to use industrially and elsewhere. Now that makes a difference for accessibility for housing today.
Yes.
But and all these wonderful walls are nothing, and inside too, are nothing but curtain walls.
Yes.
The floors are concrete slabs
That's right, it's concrete slabs, yes.
on pillars.
Yes.
So they don't need any walls at all. The idea was if any bomb came around, you could blow out the walls and it wouldn't hurt the building. Well, that means it's completely flexible for any type of use, and all these partitions we have now could disappear and use it for any use, whatever.
There it is. Spoke like a good engineer, okay? So this is it to understand, right, the internal construction of the thing and how it could be repurposed. Right, many, many uses. So this neighborhood is so interesting, and it is going to factor into very much, going forward with this. This is Almond Street neighborhood. Bates Street is the next street over right up there. Here we are again standing in the historic airland, but it's what? The fourth house. I remember doing this, right? 1, 2, 3. See that fourth house right there? The Harvard and Ayer town line and the county line runs through the middle of that house. This neighborhood is truly a planned neighborhood, and it was really part of what was known as the City Beautiful movement in the 1920s. The person the military hired at Devens to lay this out was John Burnett Ford, who actually was a native of Clinton, Mass. He's recognized as one of the fathers of American urban planning. He actually wrote the first zoning code in America for New York City. And this is who they hired to lay this out. If you look at this, it's composed beautifully. The yard, you notice the houses are all set out on a nice line together. The yards, the sidewalk, the green planting strip. And so this is truly like we're creating neighborhoods like this now. This is known as traditional neighborhood development. It's like you're going to live there, the best guys. The officers, the commission officers, lived in the brick 2-story houses that are on Walnut Street, right, which are separated, their own thing. Over here on the other side of the Brooklyn Road, well, these are the non-commissioned officers who they knew would have families. And so, right, so and this was all part of what? Dignified, professional, permanent military. We're going to make them the best housed military in the world. Took care of the regular soldiers. Now we're going to make sure the non-commissioned officers and their families, respectable, right, dignified housing. This is a permanent profession. And we treat them with dignity and all. That's what this is and why it's here. I'll just say it really fast so you see these neat little 1-story bungalows, which are very unusual for New England. You do not usually find 1-story bungalows like this.
Steel frame.
Right, with steel frame, and they are built again magnificently. The plans, and I have the actual original articles and the documents from the Library of Congress. They got the plans mixed up when they built this because they were building them in the bases up here in the north and in the military bases in the south. They got the plans mixed up. These were the plans for the southern military bases because they said we did not build 1-story buildings. And they were built with open breezeways, which has since been all bricked in. These were open porches, and the backs had open rooms for the southern climate and temperature to go through. The New England ones were to be 2 stories, with the bedroom sleeping things to the upper floor because the heat would rise. They literally said, and they caught it, classic government military, they literally caught it. They said, okay, they said, never mind, just build it anyway. This was really in the dark. They said, just go for build it anyway. Too late. Fascinating, right? Bates Street is the next street over here. Again, part of it's in Ayer, part of it's in the Harvard line. Those are even finer, 2 stories, and done in almost a English Gothic revival kind of architecture. Very, again, high quality, really high quality housing, a neighborhood laid out and planned beautifully like we try to do today. So this is a precious neighborhood.
Alan,
But it's-
they have great basements.
And that's right, that's right. That's right. They speak of their basements as well, with the old coal chutes that are still in the back.
We are in a residential neighborhood that is occupied. So where are the cars? Well, you notice there's a
Parked in
service
back.
road. A service road behind each row of houses, and that is where the garages, tool kits, tool sheds, and all that stuff are not in the front.
You just brought up the most important part that I should have said for, right, the first question is, where are the driveways? Where are the carport? Yes.
Well, they don't have garage.
By the way, the new Emerson Green that they're building, all the Devens, this is traditional neighborhood design. Driveways.
I wanted to ask
Right on,
Janice, if I may.
So this was good, guys. This is all meant to get us right. Our juices flowing and thinking and looking and all right. All right, we're gonna jump on. Now we're going to the riverfront. This is well, we're fortunate to have David. I believe might be the greatest authority on it, but I know Mary. We have to Marion. Oh, geez, what is it? Marion, do you know the land here up on the riverfront? Do you think this air controls this, or is it mass development that controls this?
I don't know.
You don't know. See, she doesn't know. She doesn't know. So this is something we
I
gotta
think
drill
this is
down.
still part of the historical property line, but we haven't
that's right.
fully taken it over.
Right, right.
I think that's how Robert told me.
No, it's all right.
But I also wanted to say, with that cleaning up on the river, thank you very much. That is a prime example of when you see an obstacle that it can be overcome. So, as the committee and everybody goes forward, when you run into an obstacle, and we're all gonna do it, we're all gonna be like, nope, can't do anything. You know what? Step away, take a breath, and then you'll find the solution. A lot of work. It is a lot of work, but everything is worth having is a lot of work. And as long as we remember that, it'll happen. Because, our ancestors didn't know the things that we know now. So the things they did, we're cleaning up the price for that, okay? But there is proof out there that it can be done.
Beautiful waterfront property here. I've met a lot of people who say, this should be really kept as a true wildlife sanctuary here.
Because in the South
I might be one of the ones tomorrow on Saturday saying, I'd love to develop a beautiful concert esplanade here. Why couldn't we have riverfront concerts and make it a destination place? People say, oh no, that would be terrible to do that, to bring all sorts of cars and traffic and everything down here. Okay, I don't know. An eco-tourism destination place? I don't know. I bet a lot of folks would love to live out here by the riverfront. I don't know.
Food incubator.
What? Sorry, what?
Food incubator.
Food incubators, right?
I like linear park myself, but
Just a huge linear riverfront park. Great. And again, when we look, I think that's going to be the most interesting part tomorrow. When we lay out the plan designs and start seeing. But understand, it's floodplain. It is Oxbow National, so there's going to be a lot of constraints onto, would you really want to develop this out here at all? And to what extent? Or literally, right? So it's all there. But I heard we're sitting up on a plateau, and out the river it drops literally very steeply 50 feet down to the river. Look at it's the scale again. You look at these things on maps and say, well, okay, it's out there, but and you picture the day during the Vietnam era, they were landing C-130 Hercules, monster, big trips,
Yeah, they just kind of go, poof.
Yeah, right. They drop when they do the actual maneuver. They drop out of the sky. But the base, the field is closed. But as Laurie says it all, this is where we have some serious contamination issues. And the PFAS is out here, and they're trying slowly. Again, Neil talked about this molasses method, which I know that's a whole other thing I don't know about. But You know, 20 years ago, when this base was closed, the South Weymouth Naval Air Station was also decommissioned during the BRAC hearings. I actually, 20 years ago now, or more, I was the planning manager for the redevelopment of the South Weymouth Naval Air Station, where
I served on that.
he served on that base right there. It's right down there. And, you know, if you go down there today, it is now Union Point. It is amazing. I can't believe it, because I did the zoning and the master plan. It's completely built out as a whole little village township unto itself. Well, they did it. Again, you look at this, I'll tell you right now, myself as a economic development guy, I see this as just like West Air Village. By the way, okay, this was known as Woods Village historically. Woodsville. I see this being redeveloped as an amazing smart growth innovation, like some of the great companies that do it. This will be here. I'd like to attract a MIT fusions, you know, out here to do it now, but there are some other people saying, no, this should be a wildlife sanctuary and refuge. Or something. So, this to me is the very exciting. Tomorrow, we'll lay out the maps and start doing our vision sketching. I think this is there's gonna be a wide range of folks saying, what would you do with this? You've all come out this morning because obviously you want to engage in the design charrette stuff we're going to do today. The bus tours I thought were really wonderful. It's going to help us today because we were right out there, you know, in the spaces, and now when you're looking at the maps, you can really feel it and visualize, you know, the spaces we were in yesterday. You can say, Alan, you know, I know what I'd love to see on the riverfront, or I know what I would do with that airfield, and you're going to show us, you're going to sketch it out. You're going to sketch it out on trace, on the big GIS maps. You can literally say, I got a concept here, do it, and you go, I like that, let's do this. You might be thinking something, someone else is going to say something else and draw it another way, and you're going to go, wow, yeah, I didn't think of that. And this is what we're going to do here today. This is meant to be fun. This is the fun part of urban planning and design. Okay, so we do so.
We drew up some lines on here for potential relocation of the line. Now, we know that's a huge process because we'd have to work with, and the note we put on here, I think, is to relocate the line and work with all three towns, because you can't do anything over there, we don't think, without three towns working together. Not just Harvard and Ayer, but potentially all three towns. So this sheet, we looked at, you know, kind of where these buildings were, and it's hard to see through this, but the town line cuts right through this building here. And it continues over, cuts through a corner of Vicksburg Square.
Right here.
Oh, this way. So we talked about, here it is on here. We talked about relocating that line potentially two ways. If you were to separate one of the industrial buildings, this is the railroad industrial area.
Yes,
I think
that's
that they
right.
talked about yesterday.
Yep.
If you separated this building from that and moved the town line into Harvard, that building would be in Harvard, the rest of that industrial would be in Ayer, which I think we've second thought about that and said that might not work. So we would draw the line probably around that building to try to keep that whole cul-de-sac, which has its buildings and it's completely developed within the town of Ayer. Then we picked it up over here and tried to get it away from the housing development. What's the name of that street? Almond, is that what you said?
Almond Street and Bates Street.
And Bates
Two of them run parallel.
And then we drew it, I think we drew it right on a street. So we split the street.
That was one of them.
And then came back up on the other street and then around. So we basically moved the line to a significant location on a street, so half the street would be
And
split.
as we know, that's how good planning and zoning is supposed to be done.
You know? You know that?
Yeah, yes, of course you do.
What does he know about planning?
That, what we call Vicksburg Square today, which is the regimental barracks, that's its proper historic name, right, was meant to frame the field. It actually is supposed to work together, which is so, think like good urban, good planners. There you go.
I think that's a great negotiation point. We'll take Vicksburg Square, but we have to have Rogers Field.
Fascinating.
So, and then,
Let this gentleman take over. Jim.
Based on current Devens zoning, heavy industry polluting tends to be in air. Part of Devens real.
High-tech big's revenue tends to be in Harvard. Okay.
Yeah, that was a good point made by Jim Lester.
yeah,
Okay, and what is your one, I don't know,
That-
keep,
Well, this is more time thinking about hazardous waste and things along those lines.
and this is the Nashua River front.
Right, that's the National River.
But
As
it's
you
all
guys know.
Here,
Oxbow.
right, here's Nashua River, McPherson Road, this is Shirley here. Okay, yeah.
So then when we got to this, the realization that the sewer treatment plant, we talked about utilities too, the fact that we have a complicated utility system over there now that's shared by everyone in Devens. If you end up with multiple towns in the same place, you're gonna have towns with multiple utilities or some kind of a
Someone brought up
central
a good
utility.
point today that we need a infrastructure and utilities plan
Yeah.
to understand all that connectivity, because that is all gonna factor into when we start
But
trying to write.
ultimately, people are gonna have to share the utilities over
Yes.
there because that's the way it is now.
Yes.
The treatment plant is in Shirley, so that led us again to the fact that we need 3 towns working together. Because we're not gonna give the treatment plant to one town and have everybody sewer go over there, I guess. But and that's kind of what we talked about here, and more about the hazardous waste, which is
Let them keep it.
this hill, you know.
Yep, which this Shepley Hill landfill.
you know,
Okay, you asked for big picture thinking, right?
That's right. Oh boy, here we go, all right. Now, this is the airfield. So we might be able, right, this is Fitchburg Road, I'm sorry, is here. Going out Route 2, Nashua River here to the west. Airfield, right, runway, airfield.
yeah, they talk about solar fields, but actually the brown field where that landfill is could be used for solar fields as well, right?
Right.
Isn't that an appropriate reuse?
Yeah, that's apparent, according to Jim, the PFAS pollution was
worst
the worst spot in town. The PFAS was in that corner of that airfield.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's where they were
And
doing
it's
the
migrating.
firefighter training.
Yeah,
Yes.
it's migrating. So the thought here was potentially we could have either a community solar field, a giant solar field, which could generate clean energy. That way we're not cutting into the ground and generating any kind of further construction. And it's completely isolated, open to the south, it's got all of that. So that kind of was the thought. And the balance of that, of course, would just become open space. Open space for people, maybe put a park out there, do something different to get people to walk around, create some kind of use of the place other than have it sit there. So open space in a solar field,
I
that's
think
what we
there's
came
some
up with.
endangered species habitat as part of that area
There is
too.
a certain sparrow types, yes.
Right, which would keep it as open space as well, I guess.
You know what? This is even interesting, but in many ways, similar maybe
I
compatible.
like this idea.
Oh, they put the 2 maps together. I see.
Oh, that's right, that was creative, very good actually, that's right. But again, here's the airfield. Why don't you come and kind of give us a sense of what you would marry and develop there?
Actually, someone else did this before we got here.
See how that happens?
The river walk was already here when we came over to have a look at this. So Marion pointed out that there's a place here that is easy to put a boat in.
That's a great, I'm sorry.
I didn't hear. No,
That's a great location, because I heard earlier yesterday someone saying this is too steep a slope
Yeah.
for a boat launch. But over here, I guess the slopes aren't so bad.
Yeah.
And also, you could, potentially, depending on how we do this could even be accessible when this is flooded. You might need a second gate here. So this still could be active even if this isn't over here.
Pretty cool, Marion.
Nice
Of
job.
course it's cool, Mary.
Because of the pollution here, it doesn't make sense to really dig up
Yeah.
the area, and so we want to think about, if you're going to develop it, you want to make sure that you're not spreading that. And so the people who were working on this before we got here mentioned a bird sanctuary. There are some rare species here, so that's probably a good use of it. This idea came from actually a Superfund site that I visited recently, where they took an area that had been remediated and turned it into a learning center. So here we have this steep overlook over the Nashua River. You can have a kiosk there describing the history of the river.
Like that.
Remediation of, the pollution that's been there, the wild and scenic river status, and how all that came into play. Just use it as an opportunity to get people out there viewing the beautiful river and seeing what can be done for restoration.
I think something that stood out initially was you saying that you needed additional funds, or like trying to plan for more employees to maintain grounds. So one solution that I thought would be important would be to introduce indigenous native plants, but also certain grasses that don't need to be mowed. So that way we're not using gas and we're not needing to get additional folks, but also curating the vegetation we do choose to integrate by having an official horticulturist. And I was thinking like veterans would be really great because Devens obviously. But this is, so that's something that I just kind of did with the green that is over there. I also think that anti-drought precautions should be taken, just because we had a really rough year, and with our limitations just with filtering water, I think it's an important thing to remember. This was the same thing that a gentleman over there, I think solar panels would be an ideal solution for the airfield, just because of the contamination. It's beneficial, on many levels. We don't have to get in there, and we'll figure that out another day, I guess. But then this, I'm not sure what this is called.
I think that's Vicksburg Square.
Vicksburg
Square.
Literally to this whole sort of, yes.
Yep, that's Vicksburg Square.
So I just, I saw the structures. People have been talking about structural integrity and the maintenance required for the buildings. So obviously, either they would be demolished or refurbished, but I think veteran housing would be really great for there. Also, energy healing has helped me a lot, so maybe integrating an energy healing center or an art therapy center. I actually had the privilege of meeting a woman veteran who now administers art therapy for veterans, so I thought that was a really special person to meet. So I don't know, this is my idea. And then I was thinking like a trade or training workshop for veterans, just because we need more, people to do intricate things. And so I have like parks and splash pads, and I think having gardens and just like an area that's both nature-y but also functional for people who have helped us. But obviously, so anywho, those are my ideas.
Nice.
Yeah, I would use possibly for additional multifamily housing, certainly a recreation trail. Going from here north, it looks like there's an abandoned road that goes from a wastewater treatment plant. Maintain shrubby habitat here. It looks like there's a combination of wetlands and other sorts of things. And this also would be housing. So that's that one. And then underneath, to the south, do you want to describe?
This is a project that is actually currently being working on for 4 years or more, is choosing a site for the senior center. And there's one proposed now on Peroni Park, and it's up to the town to decide. But this one has also been on the table. It's at the corner of Grant Road and West Main Street. And I actually talked to Mass Development, and it was on the table. I don't know what actions have been taken on it, but I have heard that it's still on the table. And the value of it is that we wouldn't have to lose the park, which is open space, and it's only about a half mile from that other polluted site that fell off the table on West Main Street, and that went off the table for very good reason. It could never really be remediated where it could have a building that would be healthful for people.
Very similar ideas to the other groups, certainly developing a trail along the Nashua River. Depending on the slopes and where wetlands are, you might have to cross the road, but certainly that. We thought about a pocket park at the triangle intersection of McPherson and that goes up to Bishop. This could be, as Jonathan mentioned, used for public events or have a kiosk or something. We thought that if the slopes allow, this could also be an additional river access for kayaks and canoes. And definitely, Marion had the idea that, this needs to be more formally integrated into sort of a greenway that would, it would connect with Oxbow and also go up into the airport area if the airport area is used for conservation more.
This is the point of the whole thing. What do we leave for inheritance to the next generation?
Excellent.
And here it is. What we're going to do next. What we did the last 2 days was important. It was actually really enjoyable. It's memorable. I know I'm always going to remember it. I bet everyone involved will do so. It's, again, important that APAC has documented also. It will be out there on cable so folks can watch this. But the really main, a goal of all this is Ayer has to now form. It's what, is right now we're just using as a working title of the Ayer Citizens, the Ayer plus Devens 2033 Citizens Committee. This will be the Citizens Committee we're putting together that's going to really do now the studying, the analysis of this, developing a lot more community engagement programming like this. And as it's said in the legislation, on or before July 1st, 2033, 10 years from now, each of the towns has to submit, what's your plan? We're not asking folks, so Al, if I get on this committee, I'm serving on this committee for 10 years? I mean, no. We need folks to start off, and it'd be staggered terms. You'll do a 2-year, maybe a 2 or 3 year thing. And then, as Janine said, then it's succession. You pass it on to the next group from all that you've learned. Here's what we learned. Now and we're handing it off to you. And we get out there, and I don't know, we submit our plan in, I don't know, 5 years, 6 years, 8 years. But obviously, on or before.
Yeah, definitely.
July 1st, 2033. We'll see how we work with, because our neighbors in Harvard and Shirley have to go through the same process, and they are. How we'll work with them together, all that's going to be a fascinating dynamic. It always is in New England, right? And this is our generation's time to do this and make this, and hopefully we'll do it with, I know you all will, with wisdom and together, and we see where the future takes us. So, if you are interested, we are seeking expressions, I'll leave it out to the world. We are seeking expressions of interest from individuals saying, I would very much be interested in serving in that committee and doing that work. So this is what's next. Spread that out there to the world. And yes, as they said, we do hope to see a good mix of, yes, bald, gray-haired people like me, and younger people. That's going to be the strength, by the way, of the thing.
Absolutely.
Okay, you folks learn stuff, but we need the fresh young eyes.
Yeah.
And frankly, all this is going to be about thinking.
You get to the charter school.
It is.
Gotta get those kids in.
This is it. Because it's really about,
Yeah.
I know we all think we'll live forever, and I will, no, we won't. It's about that next generation and making sure they, have everything. They can do anything you want here in Ayer. Go anywhere you want to do anything because of what is here, All right, how's that for a great dramatic, classic? This was an incredible 2 days. I've done stuff like this for many to 30 years in my life. This was special. What happened here the last 2 days? I didn't know how it was going to go. I planned these things for weeks and months, and you go, is this going to work? Well, wow.
So let's all acknowledge Alan,
Boy.
because he's put together last 2 days. So let's say thank you. No, seriously.
I did. But again, you know, none of this would have happened without the town manager, Robert Pomprion, saying, Alan, we need to know, you know, we need to do something now and get it going. And the select board, and Janice Livingston, our chair, it was really Robert and Janice that said, this is time we're doing it. And that's right. I'm just here to tell you, Alan, make it so. Because they know I love doing stuff like that. I love making it so. Cool. So we did it all. Love you all. That's it.
Do you want to tell people how they send any expression of interest? Would it be to you or the town manager?
Certainly, I think the best way to do it is to simply, I think most of you folks will have my email, and yes, thank you, Ginny, you know, send it to my attention here at Ayer Town Hall, the Office of Community and Economic Development. Go on the municipal website, you will see our contact information there, and we will carry on. But we'll do, Ginny, we'll do follow-up now and post that out there everywhere, saying now, Red, we are seeking folks.
Post
now
it
to come in. On our municipal website, on social media, and then hopefully others will share that around town. We always ask people to share these things. And as I've learned in Ayer, everyone in Ayer knows what's going on in Ayer, if you really want to know. We all know what's doing, right? All right. Bravo, everybody. Bravo, Ayer. This symposium is officially concluded. Yay!